Thank you for tuning in to All Things Real Estate. Once again, here are your hosts, Brad Avergon and Gary Kelly.
Welcome to the second half of All Things Real Estate. I'm Gary Kelly with Lamacchia Realty, and
I'm Brad Avergon with Fairway Independent Mortgage.
you're still independent, though.
I am very independent.
I hear that about you. Okay, so let's. You were talking about how in the depths of COVID, people were getting monies to live and not work, or live because they couldn't work and all that. And that now the Fed continues to tighten the screws, and it's going to be a painful time coming up.
Right. So basically what was happening is the Fed stepped in during COVID, and the first round of stimulus needed to happen because everybody was caught off guard, right? And there was people that, that stopped their work immediately, travel industry, restaurant industry, you couldn't help but do it. But so you needed to help those people out. Very, very important. The second round that came in, when the Fed came in with the second round of stimulus money, we were starting to come out of COVID a little bit. And when they artificially induced all of that stimulus to both companies and to individuals, it changed the natural dynamic of things, right? So you could tell in the housing industry, right? Things were going off the rails. Prices were selling way over. Interest rates were artificially low. Now, normally when that happens, when you get that type of demand, right, you get that type of inflationary factor, what happens is, interest rates are going to change, right? They go up and they move. But because of that artificial stimulus in there, it held rates down too long. And now what's happening is the Fed is trying to jam the brakes on, right? To slow that inflation factor. Versus if things had traveled along their normal economic course, we might not be seeing that.
So this is a show about real estate.
Yeah.
And we've gone from, interest rates in the 2s, 3s to interest rates now over 7. What has that done to the affordability of a house? Because I know you've got some thoughts about the affordability of housing, and, a year ago, people having to bid insane amounts of money to get a house, and maybe some of that has started to temper a bit.
Yeah, I think so. So, what I've seen. So if you bought a house a year ago at this time, and you and I discussed this scenario, you recently published an article on it. If you bought a house a year ago at this time, and let's say the house was going for about $500,000, there's a good chance, based on demand, that you would have had to pay up to $100,000 more for that particular property in order to win that bid. That's how much the demand was.
A lot of offers went in with no inspection because you wanted to minimize the risk for the seller, which definitely made it a riskier proposition for the buyer, and all kinds of other things like, no mortgage contingency, even though you need a mortgage, which I think was a very risky approach to take.
Very risky.
So it's a little different now.
It's a lot different now, Gary. So, in that scenario, again, if you paid $600,000 and you put 20% down, $120,000, that was a fair amount of money, and you had to finance $480,000. Today, if that same house, if you're asking $500,000, maybe it sells for $500,000. Maybe you get that extra level of protection of being able to put a mortgage contingency in there, so you're protecting your deposit in case you lose your job, which could happen, right? Or something like that. Or you have a home inspection issue where you find out the house is basically ready to fall over. Okay, you have that protection in there. In addition, you're only putting $100,000 down, and you're financing $400,000 with a 20% down payment. Okay, so here's the thing. Yes, interest rates were significantly lower last year, significantly lower, but you were also financing $80,000 in our scenario more. That was not going to disappear. Versus today, yes, you have a higher interest rate. Yes, you have a higher mortgage payment initially, but you're financing $80,000 less, number one. Number two, when interest rates fall back, and I do believe they will fall back, but not for a while, maybe not till a year from now, okay? You have the ability to refinance that. Now, I want to put a caveat. When I say fall back, interest rates are not going back, and you can quote me on this, they are not going back to 3%. They are not going back to 3%. And the reason is they were never meant to be at 3%. If the market had been in equilibrium without the Fed stimulus, those interest rates would have been between 5 and 5.5%. So when I say rates will fall back, maybe a year from now, we're talking probably about 5.5%. That's what I think is realistic. And actually, that's where they should be. That's where the norm is. That's where the market is in equilibrium, supply and demand.
So Brad,
yeah.
if you're someone going out to look at homes today, and there are still folks that are out looking at homes. We're working with one now. Sue and I are working with one now where she's like, I sold my house. I want to buy another house. I'm divorced now, so it's going to be a little different. I still want to go out. She's looking at houses, and she's looking at things that she can afford, which tend to be, single family home, but quite a distance from Metro West.
Yep.
And, at some point, I think that, to your point, assuming the interest rates fall back, let's say 5.5%, she can refi at that point.
Yes.
I agree with you. In fact, it's actually something I find troublesome, is I see a lot of real estate agents saying, buy the house now and then, refi later, like it's going to be this magic bullet. I don't think it is going to be a magic bullet. It's going to be a potential, assuming rates fall back. And
right.
Rates, we don't control what the rates do. That's not going to happen. So I think that there's that those are some strategies. What about an adjustable rate mortgage, which didn't make any sense for anyone when rates were so low that it was almost free money?
Yeah,
Are you seeing a lot of adjustable rates?
Yeah, I think adjustable rate mortgages are definitely worth looking at. I tend to be more on the conservative side, so I tend to look at more 5-year adjustable rate mortgages that are fixed for 5 years and up. So 5-year, 7-year, maybe even a 10-year ARM, which is an acronym for adjustable rate mortgage. You can look at those. The other thing that's not a bad idea is if you're a conservative person or you're the kind of person that worries, you can look at a 30-year fixed. You can also look at something called a buy down, which is a temporary reduction in the interest rate. So you can, for example, if fixed rates are at 7%, you can look at a 5% year 1, 6% year 2, 7% year 3 through 30. That's also another way to kind of gradually go into a mortgage while having the fixed rate proposition. But I think it's a great, you talked about somebody out there looking. I think it's a great time to buy right now. And the reason is twofold. One is people that have their homes on the market during the holidays are serious sellers, right? Because otherwise people don't want them tramping through their homes. The second thing is that right now, because interest rates have risen, some first-time home buyers have stepped aside and they may be waiting to go back into the market until they believe that rates come back down. So now you can go in, as we said, you can get a reasonably priced home without paying way over. You can get your contingencies to protect you. My prediction is this, Gary, when interest rates come back down.
Drum roll?
Yeah, right. When interest rates come back down, and I do believe they will, okay, but we don't have a guarantee, but if they do, you're going to see all this pent-up demand jump back into the market, and we may find ourselves back where we were a year ago, where things are going over asking price. And the reason for that is inventory will not be able to handle all of that demand at once. And so what you'll have is you'll be back to paying over asking price, waiving contingencies, and so forth and so on. And I don't think, there was a lot of people that were really frustrated during that market. And I think this is a great opportunity where they can get that house at a reasonable price and then hopefully refinance down the road.
Yeah, I saw something that Anthony Lamacchia published recently that said, in the most recent times, it's taken people 10 weeks to find a house, where it had been 8 weeks. We've had people that have looked far longer than that. Obviously, you have some where it's a one and done situation, one showing, they like the house, you put in an offer and it's done. But we've had some people that have it's been time after time of trying to go out and get the right house. And at some point, as the buyer, you end up being what I'm going to call punch drunk. You put in so many offers and get turned down so many times. And part of that is they've got to be realistic with what their offer is. And, as real estate agents, we are often able to look at the market, see what the price should be, talk to the other agent. It's something that amazes me. Talk to the other agent and find out what the key levers are for the sellers. Is the key lever to sell quickly, maximize price, or do they want to sell at a particular time that's more suitable to them? So simple thing, call the other agent and say, what are the priorities for the sellers, and structure an offer that way. So there's a bunch of different things to do. Brad, by the time this starts to air, it's going to be my favorite holiday.
Thanksgiving.
And as it turns out, you and I are going to be spending some time together on that day, because we're both volunteering at in Westboro at a Thanksgiving dinner thing. So I'm looking forward to that.
It's wonderful, Gary. I've been doing it for many years now, and I got to tell you, I look forward to it every year. It's just a great way for people to come together and to help serve the community, and I think people are really appreciative of it.
So, Brad, if someone wants to reach you on Thanksgiving Day, how would they do that?
Well, they can try my cell phone, and I promise I'll call you back as soon as I can. But my cell phone number is 978-375-5531, or they can email me at brad@bradavergon.com. And Gary, how do they reach you on Thanksgiving Day?
I'm at 508-733-6005. And I can be reached at Gary at movewithgary.com. Like you, I won't guarantee that I'll be immediately answering the phone, because it's Thanksgiving Day and a day in my family where we spend time with family. So, Brad, I want to thank you for your help with this, and look forward to our next show in December.
Absolutely, Gary. And happy Thanksgiving to all our listeners and viewers.
Thanks, Brad.
Once again, thank you for watching All Things Real Estate. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Brad or Gary.